How's it going, everyone? Happy Wednesday night. Um, I hope you guys are doing well. We have our co-host, the L Coach, going. How's it going, sir?
Good, man. How's it? What's new and exciting?
Um, we were talking a second ago. I feel like I jumped in a startup last week, and it was kind of the Wild West. And now, after like a week, I feel like I'm already like that meme where like all the numbers all around me. I'm trying to just whatever, get a little roadmap of like how I want to approach things. And I feel a lot more comfortable after. I probably should have waited until now to do it just because I think there's a little bit more information out there. It was just completely like just me on my own, just having to like free ball it. But yeah, feeling pretty good. I mean, my start's been going super slow as well. Like it's only like around 15 and it's been like a week and a
Yeah,
half.
2 weeks into it.
I mean, whatever. It's January, so I'm not gonna push people. But yeah, like sometimes you'll get ones where they go super fast, and sometimes you get ones that are super slow. This might be the slowest one I've ever been in. So,
A nice winter pace. I'm jealous, man. Is this the earliest you've ever done one? I don't know if it's possible to go
well,
earlier.
I was gonna say not really. It was literally. I don't know if it might have been right after week 17 ended, or like literally when week 17 was still going on. So
Yeah.
So yeah.
They blew the whistle. You're ready to go. Like,
I mean, we both did one in season, so I mean, it doesn't get more degenerate than that. So,
dude, that was so much fun.
that was really interesting. It's way different because it's just like so fluid in season. Like,
Yeah.
everything's changing like week to week. So, definitely a different challenge for sure. So we have a couple topics for tonight. I did a show yesterday about kind of like Dynasty. I said I messed it up last time too. I said Dynasty. I fucked it up. Dynasty startup strategy, kind of like what I've seen so far. I have another show on Friday with a guest that I will be releasing soon. That's talking about that. So I do want to talk about that a little bit with you. But then we're also going to go through kind of some quarterback tiers and just quarterback overall thoughts as well. So we will start off with that. We have a tier list going here. So
No cats this week.
What's up?
No cats. No cat pictures.
No odd cat pictures this week. There actually was one loaded in there that was a quarterback tier list. I had that in the rookies, but yeah, one thing I noticed was freaking Drake May and JJ McCarthy look like high schoolers. Like I'm looking at these pictures and I'm like, bro, these guys look like literally like Catholic school. Like I went to Catholic school. It looked like Catholic school like guys in high school who are like 17. So
you could bump Zach Wilson in with them and they'll be just fine.
Zach Wilson maybe looks even younger than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. Who do you have 101? I have, obviously they're in the same tier, but Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, where are you leaning right now at this point between those two?
I would go Josh Allen number 1 and Mahomes number 2. Did I freeze? Am I there?
Are we experiencing technical difficulties right now? Okay, well, I'll just bool for a second then. Yeah, I think obviously like you can't really go wrong with either of these guys. Josh Allen's been a little bit more consistent scoring. He's been QB1 or QB2-ish, around 25 points a game for the last 3-4 years. Hello, sir. You're back?
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, bud. This is the day of days.
Hey, you know what? That's it. It comes when it rains, it pours. We know how it goes. So don't worry at
all. Where were we?
So I was just pontificating on I don't think you can really go wrong one way or the other, but I don't know, slight lean to Josh Allen. I just feel like his rushing and I think he scored 15 touchdowns rushing this year.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of Mahomes is obviously an alien, but if he doesn't throw 40 touchdowns or 45 touchdowns, if he does have a little bit of a down year, whatever, just a little bit more margin for error, which, I mean, whatever, it's not going to really make that much of a difference.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think you'd have to nitpick to find the difference between the two of them. The big thing for me, I think we've seen Allen consistently finish top 1 or 2 a couple of years in a row. And I get Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet, but he's also not finished top 1 or 2 a couple of years in a row. Like he's the spikes are beautiful, the great years are incredible, but there are a handful of years outside of the top 3 as well. So when you're putting it up that high, like I would lean Josh Allen for the rushing upside, like you said, and
but just a little bit higher ceiling floor combo slightly. And just Josh Allen's been so consistent after his second year. Like once he kind of like pushed into that upper tier, he's been so consistent. So, yeah. And then I just wanted to put a little caveat as well. Jacob Sanderson always talks about this, but he kind of puts players into like, he says a base first, which is kind of like you just assume it's whatever, could go either way, like just kind of like you assume it's in the middle. So I think these guys, I would say like the S tier is probably 4 to 5 firsts. I mean, like if you're moving these guys, you're only really moving them if you're getting a Godfather offer. I have a few leagues actually where I'm considering moving them because I went all in to get a few, like I have both Josh Allen and Mahomes on a few teams. One team I traded, I forget if it was before the season or early on in the season, for Herbert, Breece Hall, and like Gabe Davis. So I got moved back a couple spots in ADP and picked up Breece Hall and Gabe Davis, who isn't much, but at least he's a flex.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna have to. We'll have to talk through that this offseason. I know we were talking over Sleeper and everything just about going too all in with like that level of quarterback. It's too much value kind of in that one position, and it leaves you very thin. I think it depends on how you build your team. Like maybe if you go super like a punt team and you just acquire a shit ton of firsts and you have the excess value to do that, you can, but I don't think it's I think last year I was over valuing that, and so definitely need to think about that and think through that and overcorrect. I don't want to overcorrect, but definitely
yeah, totally agree with you. I've got I think 2 teams that are in a similar position where you're over leveraged at QB, and it's just hard to come out of that startup in the right shape. But we'll dive into that later.
I was gonna say, yeah, we'll have to have a show kind of like on like just quarterback strategy in general. This is more just like tiers and that kind of stuff. But we had a lot of time in the off season. Well, I'm sure we'll hit many topics. So, okay. So next up, who do you have next up?
Jalen Hurts. You are reading my mind. Jalen Hurts is literally the most consistent quarterback in fantasy football. It doesn't matter how. But he's going to get you the 25 points per game. It will oftentimes be 25 to 30 points a game. I don't recall too many spike games over that though. So like, if you get kind of ticked about building a team around a QB that can sometimes vary between like 15 and 25 points a game, Jalen Hurts is that safety blanket you want, where he's gonna give you 25 points a game no matter what. So there's no dip with him, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about with Josh Allen, that rushing floor just helps so much. Like he's never really going to go below like 15, 17 points. And then when he does have a game where AJ Brown goes off, Devonta Smith goes off, he's in that 25, 30 point per game range. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really concerned about the tush push stuff either. I mean, even the year before they came up with the tush push, he was fine. Like
Yeah.
He's still a good runner. It doesn't matter if it's a tush push or if it's a whatever he runs on a quarterback sweep or a quarterback draw or anything. He's a super talented runner. It's not gonna change.
Yeah, he will find his way in the end zone for you. It's not that hard for him, it seems like.
Yeah, and I feel like they had a little bit of a down year this year. But I mean, with that amount of talent, those receivers and that O line, and hopefully they just kind of correct to the mean a little bit. Like they ran so hot last year,
Yeah,
and then this year they kind of bumped down a little bit. I think they, and whatever. I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts at all. So
yeah, agree.
Okay, so who do you have next up?
I would go. This is where I might start getting a little different. I go Lamar next.
Okay, no, I am in agreement there. I think honestly, there's probably like I think you could have Jalen Hurts in this top. Like, would you put Jalen Hurts in this top tier, or would you put him in this tier below? Here, based on like whatever points and age and everything.
So if I'm selling Jalen Hurts, absolutely, he's in that top tier. If I'm trying to buy him, he's a tier below. There's, I don't know. It's a tough call.
Get in their head.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's got everything you want. He's got the long-term contract tied to a smart organization. Clearly has playmakers around him. So I mean, it's truly one of the best situations in the league. Yeah, it's just a tough call because I think the spikes that you can get out of Mahomes and Allen are a little bit higher, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean we're splitting hairs here, but yeah, let's put him in that first tier for now. But yeah, like we said, like there might be like a middle tier here, like kind of like very slightly below.
Yeah,
but whatever. For purposes of this chart, we'll put Lamar below, but it's pretty close.
Okay.
So yeah, Lamar obviously probably going to win MVP. He, I mean, honestly, yeah, like I think it was crazy this last offseason how low he was falling just based on people worried about where he was going to go or whether he was going to play. Like, we'll try to see if there's anything that happens like that this offseason. I think that was pretty unique just in terms of the situation. But he was going after Justin Fields. Like I got him multiple times at like 110, like 109, 110. And I thought that was just absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And I really appreciate how he rewarded a lot of people's patience too. Because he didn't necessarily have the hottest start to the season. But dude, like he closed out real strong. So that's kind of been the inverse of what you've seen from him lately. So that was definitely nice to see.
Just got to get Greg Roman out of there. That's all we needed. And now,
yes.
Now he's actually passing the ball more and doesn't have an archaic offensive coordinator. So that's really nice. But yeah, I mean, honestly, and the other thing is this is without Mark Andrews for the last, 6-7 games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Zay Flowers looked pretty solid. But I mean, Mark Andrews is the de facto number one there. So even without that, he elevated the guys around him.
Mm-hmm. Turnstile at running back didn't have a lot of support there. I mean, I get Keaton Mitchell had some nice numbers, but yeah, I mean, he was running the offense. It's tough when you look at like his situation versus like Hurts. It's quite different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where I think you can make an argument that they're kind of like, I don't know if you'd put Lamar up into the top tier or if you'd bring Hurts down. I think, like I said, we're splitting hairs, but whatever. The situation's good. He's super talented. You see that 49ers game where he's going against arguably one of probably the best defense, if not one of the best two defenses, and just absolutely eating them up. So, yeah, I think the future is bright for Lamar, and if you got him last year, you're probably very, very happy with where you got him. So, and the
absolutely.
So who would you have next after that? I think that's pretty clear, like top 4 for me.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think there's a little bit of a tier break after that, but let's just put it in the same tier. But who do you have next?
Yeah, I think now you start to really get into the pocket guys. So in no particular order, I think it's got to be Herbert, Burrow, and Stroud. A little like putting Stroud up that far is a little bit of gamesmanship, it feels like. But that rookie season was what you want to see, and then some.
Yeah. I'm in agreement in the tier. I think I would put Stroud. Like I know it's a little bit. I don't think it's that bold, just based on the fact that Stroud, you get like he put up basically the best rookie season from a quarterback of all time, and they have because of the rookie contract, he has a lot of they have a lot of money to play around with. You have young receivers in Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and they still have room to spend money on whatever a better tight end than Dalton Schultz, improving even the O line, which was pretty good. So yeah, I think the arrow is just pointing so up on CJ Stroud. Like you can't start a career better than that. So and I mean, all these guys, it's like they're going to have years where they run super hot on touchdowns. Burrow and Herbert have both had years where they have thrown like 40 plus touchdowns. And then they'll have some years where they, the offense falls apart, they get injured, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, very slight lean to Stroud for me. But any of these guys are still, if you get him as your QB1, you're still feeling pretty secure, especially in 6-point passing touchdowns. You feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. These guys, I mean, they're killers in that format, which is what you want. Like, Burrow, dude's an assassin. Like, Drew Brees reincarnate, where he's just running that system at an elite level, incredible weapons around him. Herbert I don't like the injury narrative stuff, but like his situation has just been a little bizarre this year. I feel like I thought he had a lot going against him the season before with the cracked ribs and stuff like that, and then the team just kind of disintegrating around him this year. Real hard to watch as a Herbert fan. But I think he, rookie season on par with what Stroud did a couple of years back. And I still think you're going to get that high end trajectory out of him. You've seen him do it multiple times, which is what you want.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think obviously Burrow and Herbert were both hurt this year, but Burrow, you get Chase, and then we're assuming either they'll have T. Higgins or they'll trade him for probably a first-round pick and pick whoever they pick in the first round. So still in a pretty good situation. A little bit harder once you pay the quarterback to build up the team around him, but having Chase and that number 2 wide receiver there guaranteed is very good situation for fantasy. And then Herbert, obviously QJ was pretty horrendous his rookie year. But I still think there's a lot of good receivers in this draft. So whether it's, I think they're picked 6 now. So whether it's Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr., if one of them falls to them, that would be absolutely huge. On top of hopefully keeping Keenan Allen, I think that'd be a very, very nice duo for fantasy and for real life. And then if not, even if they wait till like the second round, there's still, I think it's a pretty deep wide receiver class. So if they pick in the early second round, they're whatever. That's fine enough to go on top of Keenan. So yeah, I think both of them are due for bounce backs. So if you can get any discount on them, probably not now that the off season's started, but the time to do it was when they were injured. And I saw some pretty cheap deals for them just based on people wanting points. So
right on. Yeah.
So I think I know where you're going with this next pick, but why don't you break the news to me?
So it's tough, and I was going back and forth and looking at it. I know in the sheet I have Richardson, but the more I think about it, I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to Kyler because Kyler has gotten there quite a few times. And I'm getting like you get the really good vibes out of Arizona right now. with the comments that they've had around him. Looked a little rough passing to start with, but coming off the ACL, it's understandable. Fantasy wise, he was still putting up numbers. So yeah, like he's an undeniable talent. I think when he's at his peak, he is closer to Lamar than those other three are. What do you think?
Yeah, that's that's why I have like so much Kyler, honestly. I think I have like 30% Kyler, or maybe more even. And yeah, he was a huge, crazy buy in the offseason as well. He was going in like the third round of startups just based on
Yeah.
the fact that people didn't know when he was going to come back this year. But yeah, I mean, like we said, the rushing floor with the other guys, you really want to be targeting these quarterbacks that rush, obviously. But I mean, both Lamar and Kyler, like they're good passers as well. They're not just rushers; like they're good all around. And I mean, Kyler, when he's been healthy, he's been putting up like whatever 20 over 20 points a game, which is pretty much where the tier above in Stroud, Herbert, and Burrow are. So, yeah, honestly, I view them like I think I would slightly put the other guys above, but like in actionable advice of like in real life, like I think they're closer than we really think. Like I'm honestly not even opposed to putting Kyler up here. I think that's how I view him. So
yeah, I think it's justified.
Okay, so I do think after those guys, there's a little bit of a tier break, just based either on whatever, either experience and like what we've seen from them versus the profile, or the lack of rushing. So I think who's your next few after this?
My next one, hometown hero, Anthony Richardson. Let's go. Elite production when he was healthy. Super fun to watch when he was cooking. I'm excited to see after hopefully a healthy offseason, developing under Shane Steichen. I'm really excited to see what he comes back and does next year. So I guess, is this kind of fringe back end of the first round that we're looking at with him, you'd think? Still?
Yeah, I think it's right. Yeah, right at that 1-2 turn.
Okay,
is exactly where we'd see him.
Yeah. I feel good about him there.
And then who do you have next?
So this is where kind of you start running into questions because we haven't necessarily seen Richardson do it for a full season. We've seen the bursts, but we'll also seen the injuries. Do you put Caleb here? Is it time for Caleb?
I feel like it's time for Caleb. Yeah, I mean, just based on perception, market perception, like he's probably going to go above Kyler in a startup.
Yeah.
I think like a startup range, he would go right after Herbert and like Justin Jefferson and Chase and Lamb in that range. So yeah,
it's going to be fun to see what happens with him, especially with the Bears keeping Eberflus there, but changing offensive coordinators. A little nervous about some of my 101 bags. We'll see, because it feels like there's going to be no shortage of FUD. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely doesn't make me feel better about it, but I still just think I think it's a little bit of like just prospect fatigue in terms of like he's been on the radar for so long that we're trying to poke holes in his game just based on him being at the top for so long. Kind of like with Bijan last year, where just everyone was kind of like, whatever. You see him up there at the top, and you're like, okay, you're trying to poke holes in this just crazy prospect. And yeah, I think I might even put him above Richardson, just because I think Richardson's floor is lower, even though his ceiling might be higher, just based on his rushing and like being in that fast paced offense. but yeah, I don't know. I think they're pretty much back to back to me. Like if you're in that 1-2 turn range, I'm fine with either of those guys. I think they give you a pretty good. They're young, so they'll hold value and whatever. Both very promising prospects. So
Yeah, I think this is the interesting thing where we saw like last season. I feel like Richardson is kind of priced about the same as he was last year based on what we've seen. Maybe he's a little bit more expensive now, but there wasn't much appreciation. You saw a big jump with Stroud. So I guess kind of when you're talking about Caleb going, around that like 1.6 to 1.7 spot, like he's got to have a pretty insane year to hold that, don't you think?
yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit later than that. Like it depends on if people are quarterback hungry. But like I think Jefferson and Chase could go above him, or even Lamb has been steaming up
Yeah.
for his last after this season. I think like I don't think I think that's pretty much one clump here for me in terms of wide receiver. I think you can justify any of them over a quarterback if you want because there are good options in the second round, but. Yeah, I think in terms of Caleb, I think he'll like Lawrence. Like I think Lawrence, even when he had an absolutely horrendous rookie year because he was such a strong prospect, he fell to like late 2, like early 3 range. So, and then like after the rookie year, like they will bounce back. So I think it's like you're pretty much just holding him anyways. Like I wouldn't advise selling Caleb Williams if he starts off his first 5 or 6 games poorly.
What? That's not a winning formula? No. You should always sell players when they start to lose value a little bit. Always sell rookies before Halloween. It's a great rule to live by.
You're supposed to sell the dip, right? Isn't that the moniker? Sell the dip.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So okay. So who do you have next? I think I have a guy that I like, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
So I feel like the safest one here is Dak, right? I feel like Dak is next.
Who do you have? I think that's where I would go. I mean, I think, I mean, we just saw like he was one of the best quarterbacks, like in real life terms. And he was scoring super well, tied with CeeDee Lamb. They were passing it a ton, and I think he was same thing, very, very cheap in the offseason just based on perception. And I think that's overall a lesson that we should take away is just you want to look at the underlying metrics. You don't want to look at what's his name, Stephen A. Smith or whoever are these talking heads that kind of ebb and flow up and down on different players based on narratives. You want to be more based in the analytics and also just from like a common sense thing. Like we know Dak is a good quarterback. There was a little bit of uncertainty with the coaching situation, but I don't think he should have fallen as much as he did. And yeah, he's been just super stable, and he's not going to give you that much rushing production, but just offensive environment, good weapons, and they're going to whatever in terms of just offensive environment, they're going to pass a lot. So honestly, not too much different than Burrow, Herbert, and Stroud in terms of pocket passer and good weapons and whatnot. So I think you get a little bit of a discount on him just because he's older and not as flashy, not as a shiny toy as the other guys, but definitely a good value. Like if you get a wide receiver in the first round, you can get Dak in like the mid second or early second. I think that's a very nice start if you don't want to go quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, best cadence at the line in the league with the here we go. I mean, we haven't had a great one, I feel like, since Manning with Omaha, and I feel like he just kind of, he took that by the reins. So that's what you want, vocal leader. It's good stuff.
He put some real cojones into it. Yeah, he's in Texas, so he needs to just, be a man and just.
It is deafening to hear. Like it's great.
But yeah, I mean, like we see with like Mahomes not Mahomes, Burrow and Chase, like kind of like both being in that like first round range. So I mean, I think with CD now pretty much locked into like the late to mid first round of startups, like that's pretty nice situation to have as your wide receiver being a first round startup pick. Like that's a pretty high floor and high ceiling based on just the talent of CD and the offensive environment. So yeah, really like
Yeah.
Dak. Bought a lot of them this offseason. I think good option there in the middle to early second round if you want to grab them there. Is it T-Law next? What do you think?
I'll defer to you on that one. I would have picked a player that's in an explosive offense in Souther Florida, more South Florida.
It's like I don't even know what is it like middle Florida. I
Yeah, give me the bull case on T-Law. This is good.
I think T-Law. He kind of had a semi breakout year last year after the terrible first year with Urban Meyer. And he had what it was the playoff game where he kind of went crazy. So that kind of boosted him up into the offseason into the late first round. This year was kind of a disaster. I think just variance did not play into his hand very well in terms of like I don't know how many if you saw the video on Twitter or making the rounds of Calvin Ridley just dropping like 10 touchdowns. I think he led the league in end zone targets. It was like 25 or something like that.
A 2-minute highlight reel of dropped touchdown passes. Like that is kind of nuts. That's a good buy. Seems like a good buy opportunity, perhaps, but man.
Yeah. And you know what? He is a little bit more mobile than I think the perception would say. Like I think he actually is pretty mobile. And I mean Christian Kirk was out, Zay Jones was out, Calvin Ridley was coming off of like almost a 2-year layoff. Evan Ingram had a huge season, I think, because of that. But he didn't have a perfect situation there with kind of some of his guys being hurt and just some bad luck. So I mean, I think he's a pretty solid pick right there in like the middle second round or up into the beginning of the second round, just because he is due for some positive regression in terms of just whatever, some shit went wrong. And he's still very young. I think he's 23 years old and he's a crazy prospect. I think the coaching staff is pretty competent around him. So yeah, I think this is as low as he's really realistically going to go. So don't think there's much downside risk and definitely some upside if you think he can move up and just be a stable, pocket passer and grow into his role in the offense and just get a little bit more luck. So I think this is pretty interchangeable tier too. Like Richardson provides the most like upside in terms of rushing of like that Jalen Hurts type profile. Caleb is a good dual threat guy. Dak is a stable pocket passer, and Trevor is kind of in the same mold as Dak, maybe a little bit more rushing now that Dak is older and broke his leg. But yeah.
Yeah. If I start to give in to the Caleb FUD, just remind me this offseason to like go watch the highlight video for like a minute of him just slinging it, because it's a lot of fun to watch Caleb highlights. Like, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and like I think it's a little bit of like recency bias in terms of this last year, their defense was, I don't know if it was the worst in the NCAA, but like one of the worst defenses in the NCAA. So he was just so much pressure was put on him. He was always having to play hero ball, and he looked like a little bit worse in terms of just making some plays that looked a little wonky. But I just think you kind of have to throw that out just based on the overall body of work. So yeah. Looks like we have a question here, so let's stop for a second. In a draft right now, but it's 4-point passing touchdowns and -2 for interceptions. Okay. Took Justin Jefferson at 107 in the second round with Trevor, Garrett Wilson, Gibbs, AJ Brown, Kyler on the board. I know where I'm going here. Where are you going?
I mean, that feels like Kyler's music, doesn't it? 4-point passing touchdowns, so you get the rushing carrot boosts him a little bit more above some of those guys.
Yeah, I think like we were just saying, like it's fine to take one of those elite top 3 wide receivers in the first round, because you do have those options of Kyler and Trevor and Dak in the second. So
Yeah.
that is something I definitely have taken away. Is like after you do so, like I think we'll talk about it later, but I prioritize double elite quarterback, and I think it's perfectly fine to do that, where you take one of those wide receivers and take Kyler or Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, I would lean Kyler in this situation. So we're on the same page there. Okay, so I think we're at the end of that tier. So that's kind of like the like second roundish guys, or maybe late first. So where would you go with your next guy in the next tier?
I think it's got to be Tua. I don't know. I'm curious to see where Drake May fits into stuff as well, and I feel like he's going to get steamed up quite a bit as we get closer to draft season. I don't know if as many people are as familiar with him as they were with Caleb. But yeah, it's definite tier break here. I love Tua. Was so excited to see him play the full season. I think that's awesome. I love his game. I get that he is not a potential league winner at QB, where you're getting a top 5 guy in and out every week. Obviously, limitations with the rushing, but I think as he continues to grow in this offense, I think you're going to see a pretty good passing ceiling there, similar to Kirk Cousins' years once he kind of established himself. What do you think?
Yeah, I think those are all good points. I'm notably not a Tua guy, but I do think this is the right range for him. Like I do think whatever. We talked about offensive environment with Dak, and with Burrow, and just that they're going to throw so much. I mean, there's not a better offense to be in than the Miami Dolphins system with Mike McDaniel. So I think that helps a lot. But I do think um, this is it's early. It's early, so I don't know if I would put him above him now. But I do think Jaden Daniels and May could jump him. I personally would have them above him just based on the fact that whatever. I think Jaden Daniels, he's already being mocked top 3. So, and we're like, this is like Anthony Richardson at least took some time to like start the train rolling in terms of the hype. Like Jaden Daniels, he won the Heisman. I mean, he was a way better passer than Anthony Richardson in college. I mean, I think like obviously he's a very, very good rusher as well, but I think he's a very, very competent, if not above average passer. So I think I would lean Jaden Daniels and Drake May above him just for the upside case in terms of I don't think they're like points per game wise is going to be that low, and barring just a Trevor Lawrence rookie season where their whole team falls apart. And they both are much more they both have much more rushing upside than Tua. So I think that's where I lean. Obviously it's not as safe, but I think with rookies, that's really weird. With all rookies,
Yeah.
you're just looking for they're likely to rise in value, and if like this is where we're taking them right now, they could go in this like whatever up a tier or maybe up into here depending on how their rookie seasons go. So
Yeah, I agree. You could definitely see Jaden Daniels make that jump, especially playing for an offensive juggernaut like the New England Patriots, surrounded by elite weapons. So I'd be a little nervous about that, but
I'd
I
be a little
mean,
bit. I'd be a little nervous. I mean, hey, we saw Cam Newton put up a not terrible
yeah,
season during the COVID year with his rushing. So I don't know. I think it's obviously that would not be ideal, but
yeah. It's I think definitely a player that could transcend the situation there. So I think you're justified in bumping him up.
Um, but yeah, I think sorry, one more note on Drake May. Like I think people because he's honestly because he's white, like I think people are like, oh, like he's a pocket passer, but he's not a pocket passer. He's definitely a dual threat guy. He put up pretty impressive rushing numbers in college. And he's big, athletic, kind of yeah, like kind of. I mean, I think he's a better rusher than Herbert and Lawrence, but like that type of build, but a little bit
Thought you
better.
were about to say Will Levis-esque.
No,
Bricked up.
no chance, no chance.
Love it.
I mean, Will Levis is almost more of like a power back type rusher.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the Brady Quinn school of working out too much at QB. It's good stuff.
exactly. Yeah, did you? It's like Kirk Cousins back in the day was all rocked up in college when he played for Michigan State, and then I don't know if it was on the show on Netflix, but he was just basically saying like, yeah, I saw Tom Brady, and I was like, he doesn't look big, he doesn't work out, like maybe this is not so important. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it's probably somewhere in between those. I think it's probably still important, but yeah.
You go with from baseball, you go with the pitching legend Greg Maddux, where he's like, you can't tear fat. That's my secret. Like, and dude was out there like 200 plus innings every year for like 20 years. You can't tear fat. It's good. Just, get a hefty QB. You'll be fine.
Hefty lefty. Rest in peace, Jared Lorenzen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how Jamarcus Russell didn't succeed with that guidance, but whatever.
Hey, imagine the tush push with Jamarcus Russell.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Jared Lorenzen basically was doing the tush push. He didn't even need the tush push. He was the tush push himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have the Brock Purdy conversation because I think he's probably next. Probably. What are you thinking about Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like him and Tua are pretty much interchangeable. I think you could after the conclusion of the season, I think you have a good case to put him above Tua. Absolutely elite environment that he's in. And he has given you some really good, 28 to 35 point weeks on occasion, which is great from a pocket passer. Shanahan clearly loves him, which I feel like you've cleared up all the confusion from the offseason. Trey Lance is out of the picture. I think at this point, the draft capital stuff is kind of irrelevant. So yeah, I think he's played himself into that upper echelon. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I think him and Tua are very similar in terms of like purely talent based and like rushing factor. They're not. I think they're pretty much the same. They have a really good offensive environment, good weapons around them, kind of propped up a little bit by the system. But I mean, we saw his other than like one or two games where he played the Ravens, like he was putting up pretty good good numbers in terms of scoring wise. So I mean, I don't think you can drop him any lower than this. I think you can even make a case maybe to put him slightly higher or at the top of this tier. I wouldn't personally, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is like a fun rub, and we can get into this kind of mindset when we talk of startup strategy, but like I would almost pass on like a Lawrence or a Dak if you you're going to get Purdy or one of those guys in that next tier, and you can kind of get that elite wide receiver ahead of them. Like that feels like a smart move, right?
I think if you can get like an Amon-Ra, or whatever, one of those next tier, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Puka, whatever, one of those Olave, one of those guys, I think it's viable. Definitely. If you can get Purdy in the third, like early third, like if you have like a third round reversal where you get kind of like the 1-2 turn and then you get the 301 or 302, I haven't thought about it that much, so I don't have a very fleshed out answer. But yeah, I do think the point per game difference between those guys was non-existent. He's young, obviously. Like he doesn't have as much talent, insulation based on just whatever he was a he was Mr. Irrelevant, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask for a better situation than what he's in right now. So, and that's not going to go away. And it's not like the 49ers, barring injury, like they're not going to just throw away having to pay Brock Purdy just a tiny amount of money and what that the freedom that allows for your team. So, I
Yeah.
think
I mean, this
he's
is
like,
like the, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
It's like the Russell Wilson rookie contract on steroids, man.
Exactly.
I mean, they've already got the super team in place, and just being able to continue to, have that surplus value with that rookie contract for Purdy is absolutely nuts. Like, it's crazy when it happens to a juggernaut team like that. I mean, dude saved their bacon on the Trey Lance stuff big time. That's
that's just a crazy run out. Like, you know what the crazy part is I was 100% team Justin Fields in that draft. I was like, for sure. I didn't know how he fell to the Bears.
Yeah.
What was it, pick 10 or 11 or something crazy? With Zach Wilson going 2 and Trey Lance going, or was it Zach Wilson 2 and Trey Lance 3, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I think Justin Fields. We'll get to Justin Fields in a second, but I think if he would have been in San Francisco, that would have been pretty fun. So
Yeah.
sad that didn't happen, but all right. This is a very weird spot after this, I feel like. We have Fantasy Football Garage. What's up? Pretty rookie contract reminds me of the situation early 10s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it gives you so much flexibility team building wise. It's why the Bears should trade Fields for a second or third round pick and take Caleb, just because you get to pay a rookie quarterback like what, it's like under $10 million per year versus 30, 40, $50 million per year that you're going to have to pay once you get into that second contract. So it just allows your team so much more flexibility. You can pay your receivers, you can pay your defense. It's invaluable to have that. So
Yeah. I'm excited for the Brock Purdy endorsements next season. I feel like he's earned it now. So you probably see him in a bunch of commercials next year. In the Midwest, we'll get Tractor Supply Company and stuff like that. So we should be good.
Hey, this is my train of thought. We'll have to talk about this later on, but I found your next Iowa tight end that you're going to fall in love with. I don't think he's the same level as Laporta, but he's a big boy. He's like 6'6". I think his dad played in the NFL as a tight end for 11 years. And I think he was hurt a little bit this year, but probably second or third round probably. And we'll have to dig into it later on, but I'm sure we will. But yeah, I had to mention that just because last night I was like, oh damn, the next one is here. So also buy Noah Fant. He's gonna get a new contract with another team and ball out like Njoku and Evan Engram did. So buy him now before he signs. Okay, next here. This is a weird one. I think some options here. Watson, Fields. Guess you can put Jared Goff in here. Jordan Love. Who else are we thinking here? Probably McCarthy and Bo Nix and maybe Penix based on draft capital. I mean, there's no point in predicting it now. I think Penix, it seems like he's probably based on, he seems like he's probably going to go late first round or like maybe second round, not as high as we thought he might go, but whatever. We can't really speculate. Actually, yeah. I didn't think about Jordan Love, but he's been getting a lot of steam lately after how he played this season. So I think, I think Jordan Love might be in this tier actually. What are your thoughts on Jordan Love? Give us the bull case and the bear case.
Yeah. The bull case is, I mean, that similar to well, it's not really similar, but the offensive environment around him is great, similar to what Purdy has. And they have I saw something where like their collection of wide receivers, the total salary is less than what the Jets paid Alan Lazard this season. So that's great. I think like probably one of the more fun wide receiver cores that's out there too, for like the young guys they have and just how different stylistically they all are. Um, he had some tough moments this season, closed out strong. And I think, LaFleur is a hell of a coach, calls a good game. You get the mobility, you get the arm talent, the improvisational stuff that everybody loves. I think he's absolutely played his way into that tier. I feel like he's got more security than Fields. I would rather have him than Watson for a lot of reasons. And yeah, I think he's the upside is a little bit higher than what you'll get from Goff. So I feel good about it there.
Yeah, I think he's probably in this tier. I've seen people putting him. I've seen a Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love discourse. Who would you rather have? So we'll have to revisit that. Haven't thought through it enough, but I mean, whatever. He's young. He was producing this year when he was young, and the offense is bound to get better based on they were the youngest offense. I don't know if it was in history, but like it was like definitely in the league this year. So probably some growth there. Super high variance type of like player. Like he's gunslinger.
Yeah.
So he'll run hot and he'll run cold, definitely. But when he's running hot, he's running real hot, especially with the weapons he has. So
yeah.
So yeah, this next tier, I don't know. This is not really like a tier that I really usually would like to have. Like I almost would rather have one of these, like one of these top 2 or 3 tiers, like one guy from this range. And then, like you said, either like take a wide receiver in round 2 and then one of these guys in round like whatever, late second or third, then take one of these guys if I can't, and like just bypass this whole range. I think 2 guys that I do like are Levis and Young, just based on they're very depressed in their value right now. Like I think they're like 7th. I think I just got Bryce Young in my startup in the 7th round, and Will Levis I think went in the 7th round as well. So I just think whatever, like they're rookies, and I don't think like they do have upside to like go up in value is what I'm saying. And then if not that, like for my QB2, then I'll fall back to like the Stafford. I think Stafford is a huge buy. If you can get him like
Yeah.
And maybe like maybe like a Geno, Kirk Cousins, maybe whatever. Like I think if you're not going 2 elite quarterbacks, you should just stack like 2 to 3 just random like QB2 types. Derek Carr as your like 4th or 3rd.
Go back to the Geno one. I like Geno a lot better than that. That's good.
Hey man, I'm just saying, like it's almost like QB2 by committee. Like it's like how I treat my RB2 spot a lot of times. If I don't have like 2 just elite guys, I'll just treat my RB2 spot like a revolving door and just whatever, handle it with volume and not with like quote quality
style points. I dig it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the bull case for Bryce? Where do you see that rebounding?
I just think the situation was so poor that it can't get much worse. I do think he's like a talented distributor in terms of he had some dark spots for sure, but I did think like I just think make his situation at least like league average, and I think he'll be like whatever, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins. I think he has that in his range of outcomes. And I think just it's more just the cost is so low. Like if he was still going in the 5th or 4th round where he was going, I would be out. but it's just the fact that people are so low on him, like people don't want to take him at all. Where like if you can pair him as your QB2 with like a Stafford or like a Carr or something, give you a little bit of upside there, and then you also get the floor of the other older pocket passer like a Carr or a Stafford, just as your backstop. So it's more a process play than like my actual talent love of Bryce
like
Young.
a player take. Yeah.
Yeah, and same with Levis. I mean, like I think he has talent. Like they fired Vrabel, maybe they'll run like a more modern like spread offense, which I think is a way better fit for him. Honestly, like just let him sling it. He's gonna make some mistakes. He'll run a little bit. He'll throw deep balls. Like I don't know. Like I don't, from a real life standpoint, would I want Will Levis as my quarterback? No, but for fantasy, if he's my QB2, I think there's worse options, especially with the perception of him going down after that one huge game he had where he threw 4 touchdowns or whatever. So
yeah, it's pretty great. I really enjoy how like right now Ben Johnson, just like all of the doors are opening to him with some of these head coaching jobs that are now available. This like with some of the weird firings this week.
I feel like I haven't even processed that was happening right before I logged on and I was running around trying to get ready. So yeah, I'll have to take in that information first before I have a take. But yeah, I think there's 7 head coaching spots open right now, or 7 or 8.
Yeah,
so
kind of nuts.
Pretty nuts. Let's talk Fields, and let's talk Fields just for a second, and then let's do like maybe 15-20 minutes of startup first look strategy. But what about Fields? How are you feeling on him based on the fact that he's probably going to get moved? Like, how are you feeling about that?
I think a good, similar to what you were saying about Bryce, where, it's a good buy opportunity. I don't know that I'm going out of my way to make him like a priority. But I would love to see him in a vertical offense with like Steelers, Falcons. I think would be easy trade candidates if they, dump probably like a second, maybe a second, probably like a third to get him. I would guess at this point, something like
range,
that. Yeah. But yeah, just him throwing moon balls to our guy Kyle Pitts and Drake London would be great to watch. George Pickens would be fun as well. Open somewhere down there. He's got hands for it. And Deontay, short or deep, be great. But I think he would work well paired with. I would like to see a normal, like an offense built around his strengths. I feel like we didn't really get to see that in Chicago, except for a couple of flashes of it. Just real weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think the coaching was so bad. I think the Raiders maybe would be like an interesting spot for him. But yeah, I think he's not. I think as my QB2, it's the same thing as I was talking about with Bryce, a little bit higher price. Like I think now that he's being assumed that he's going to be moved, I think he's still pretty expensive. Like I've seen him go in like the third to fourth round range. So I think he's fine there. But like I said, like I almost want to like bypass that whole range if I can. I just think the value isn't really there. But I don't think it's a terrible strategy. Like match him up with another like Derek Carr, Stafford later on, just so you get a little bit of a floor there, and whatever. I mean, scoring wise, I think he's pretty locked in. It's just basic. It's just his value insulation based on the fact that whatever. I don't think he like has that much value insulation in terms of if he goes to a new place, new situation. There's upside there, but there's also a lot of downside of just like, is he actually that good? So
yeah. I think like it wouldn't be a guy I would like target in a startup, but existing leagues, like if you've got some, couple of late firsts, maybe 2 seconds to get it. Probably not 2 seconds. It's probably too cheap, but yeah, I feel like he'd be attainable. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you can get him for like a late first plus like a throw-in type, whatever guy that's like a mid-second-ish or whatever, late second-ish value, or like an older guy where you're just people, whatever. I think that's a solid, like the throw-in, like 2-3 turn startup pick, or not startup pick, rookie pick type guy.
Yeah.
And top of a late first, I think is reasonable. Whatever, he has upside. Like there's a lot of worse picks where like they're just stable, not really going to give you much upside, but they're just stable. And I'd rather take the shot on the upside.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Not a guy I'm like in love with. So, okay, so let's do a quick Dynasty startup kind of overall. I know you haven't done a startup yet, so I won't dig too deep into it in terms of asking you the nitty-gritty details. But generally speaking, what is your strategy going into a startup, and how do you approach it?
Yeah, I think you and I are kind of wired the same way with this. Definitely be getting the reps in last season. So after trying a few different things, I built some teams going to elite QB, like top 5, top 3 guys. I feel like it leaves you way too thin coming out of the startup. And if those guys aren't crushing it, then you're kind of dead in the water, and you don't have a lot of like tangible leverage to get out of it. So as last off season went on, kind of changed it up. That was probably the first time that I've drafted that many teams in the off season. But really liked some of the teams where I had a challenge where you want to leave the startup with more firsts than you came into it. I feel like is a great way to start. Last year my go-to was like round 5, I'm selling it somehow. Like I'm going to find somebody to give me a first and something else for it. You find those pockets where guys are overvalued and you can kind of scooch back. And if you can scoop up a first to do that, awesome. So I think getting that elite QB round 1 is obviously a priority. Scooping up those extra firsts. I want to leave the draft with an elite QB, elite wide receiver, and elite tight end. Past that, anything else past that is gravy. And have a team that I feel like I can compete with. You kind of look at it, you can see the holes, but you could also see like the way that fantasy works out. Could be a team that makes a run at 4th and 5th place. And you don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs, but you've got assets for the next few seasons that you can, pick stuff up in season if you wanted, or sell off if you have an opportunity to scoop up somebody that's injured if things aren't going your way. I feel like it just gives you the most flexibility possible, and that's how I want to leave startups. What do you think?
You read my mind in terms of what I was about to say next. I was going to say just flexibility. I think far too often people either have the mindset of like, I'm going all in or I'm completely tanking. And I think it's a little bit reductionist in terms of like, you don't have to do one or the other. Like you can have it both. You can, I think a big thing for me is like getting older wide receivers. I think I'll talk about that more this off season, but like Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, even like an Amari Cooper, these older vets where people are a little bit scared off. Their ADP is a little bit, I think, especially right now, this time of year, their ADP is very depressed after people are looking at them in a startup or whatever. And they're like, I have to get them off my team because they're 29, 30, 31. I think like acquiring those extra picks when you can, when it's the cycle of the year, when that is more easily available, like in season, when people are maybe trying to win, they're trying to fill a hole, go ahead and do that. And then you can always backfill those guys that are aging out with whatever, even if it's a second round pick. And that's a prime range for wide receivers, is that early second round range. So you can take some older guys while also keeping your picks high at the same time, and then you really get the best of both worlds, where you get the production, but then you also get the steady store of value that's not going to go down, right? Like a pick is not going to go down in value. It's not going to get injured. The perception of that pick isn't really going to go up or down. If anything, it's going to go up as you get closer to the rookie draft of when it's going to happen. Even if it's like right now would be a great time to buy 2025 picks.
That's a question I've got for you. Like, where do you kind of draw the line on where you feel comfortable getting those? Because I get the variance can work in your favor where you don't know what's going to happen with that pick. It could be, a top 5 pick, but like where, if you can't push back to get like a pick for this year, which I get we're about to start up, but like that next year that's out, how do you kind of layer that into your decision making?
Yeah, no, I think this is the time to do it. All the way up until whatever. Honestly, this is a great time to do it because it seems so far off that people are discounting it. But I think the term is the hold tax. I'm not sure who coined that, but it's like, yeah, you're paying a little bit of, you have to sit on that and wait on it. But it's like, it's such a steady store of value. You know that the first ones you get to like this time next year will be more valuable at that time.
Yeah.
So you just have to treat it like that. Like you might want to get a little bit more on top. Like if you're doing, like if you're instead of if you're trading them for like whatever, like a mid to late, like 108, 109 first. If you're doing a 25 first, maybe get something on top, like a second or something, just to since you are holding that. But yeah, and I think in terms of range wise, I think honestly, pretty much any of these wide receivers after like JSN, I think my general rule is basically after you get like elite tight ends, obviously I want those guys, so I'm not going to trade them for like a single first.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like you said, the fifth round and after, if I can in a startup, I can get a first round pick, even if it's a 2025 plus a little bit or a 2024 like 108 or higher. I would do that every single time because I just think, yeah, you'll be able to get a replacement points per game guy in like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round at wide receiver, because wide receiver is so flat. Like that's another thing. I'm talking with Deep Plout. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. I think it's Deep Plout, but on Friday. But yeah, like basically you have your elite vets, you have your kind of like cornerstone wide receivers where they're like a good mix of like an Amon-Ra, where like you get the youth and you get the production. But then once you get into like this 5th round range, it's like, okay, yes, they might be more likely to score a little bit more, but I mean, Tyler Lockett is like the perfect example, right? Like, okay, this year he fell off a tiny bit. Like I think he was like 11 points a game, but for 5-6 years, he never got that expensive and he's scoring 15 points a game. Like, why not just take the pick and just play Tyler Lockett in your flex? Like,
well, yeah. And like, dude, last offseason, you were getting Mike Evans in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round.
11th round. Yeah.
Yeah. Outscoring everybody that was in the 5th round. I with the exception of maybe Debo, but yeah.
I think he scored more than Debo. Yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of people, they get enamored with like the young wide receivers and just whatever. Like it looks good on paper. I would implore you to, like, if you can trade him for a guy who's going to score similarly and get like a first on top or get some sort of picks on top. I just think construction wise, whether it's in a startup or otherwise, it's much more advantageous for your team, and just it's going to give you the flexibility of you get the best of both worlds instead of going all in one way or the other. So
see, now I'm itching to do a startup. This is great,
bro. Trust me, I'm itching to do another one, and I'm already in this one.
I love it.
Okay, and then I just want to go. I have to go somewhat soon, probably like 10-ish minutes. But Jalen just my initial thoughts after whatever, about a week and going through the startup and seeing some other startups and seeing a rough ADP. It's not solidified yet. We don't have the Adecco um, draft app that we were using last year up and running yet. I think it'll be
I
up
love that thing.
in the few weeks, hopefully, or whatever. But it's soon is the important part, is that it will be back. But my first initial thoughts are, obviously, we talked about the elite quarterbacks, the top three, the Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. I would even extend it to like the Lamar tier. If you can get one of those top four guys, like definitely a priority to do so. Like if you're in a derby and you can pick your spot. But yeah, quarterback in the first.
Was that Lamar at the 6th overall pick? I mean, you're still
Yeah,
getting
he
value on
almost
him, I
fell
feel
to me
like.
at the 107. I was real sad. I have like 30% Lamar, so like it's probably good to diversify, to be completely honest. But yeah, I do definitely would prefer Lamar or Stroud like over Herbert. But yeah, so I would say get one of these like top 4 or 5 quarterbacks. I do think it's viable this year, like we were talking about, to go like a Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, and then wrap it back around with a T-Law or a Murray or a Dak. Like we see Dak going 2.9 here. I think people still aren't in love with Dak outside of a few circles. So if any of these guys, like I would just say any of these 3 guys, if you can get one of them falling, and you can either whatever, like trade a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round pick and get something back. That's what I did. I traded a 2nd round pick. I didn't need to. I didn't end up needing to because T-Law and Dak or one of those would have been there, but I prefer Kyler. So
yeah,
I traded a 2nd and got a 14th round pick back. So it's probably like a late 2 for a 25-2 swap, and I value Kyler higher. So yeah. And then so elite quarterback in the first, or one of these top 3 wide receivers. 2nd round, prefer an elite, one of these 3 quarterbacks, Lawrence, Kyler, or Dak. Otherwise, I think it's fine to go like a Bijan, Brees Hall, Puka, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, one of those guys. 3rd round, if one of like same thing, like a Brees or one of those Puka guys that usually one of them is bound to fall, right? Like here it was Brees Hall. I picked him 3-6.
That's
Gibbs.
disgusting. Like I feel like running backs are going to be such a value this offseason.
I mean, CMC going 3.9, like a CMC, that's fine there at that cost, right? Like you're not paying a 1st round or 2nd round pick for him. I do think, like you said, like if you want to bypass quarterback in one of the first 2 rounds, you can go one of these like Purdy, Love, Tua types, or one of the rookies. I think that's fine. It's viable. And for me, I'm always targeting elite tight ends. So in the 3rd and 4th, my priority, if not for one of those guys that's falling, that's like a 2nd round startup pick, a Laporta would be number 1 for me. But then any of those, Laporta, Andrews, or McBride in that 3-4 range, make that a priority. So if you have to trade, like I said, trade your 25 third to move up a few spots if he falls. If one of these guys falls, or if you can sit and you're going to get one of the 3, every single time I would do that. If you can get one.
It is nice having more elite tight ends now, where you don't have that insane pressure that you have to like get up into the beginning of the 3rd to get one now. I feel like you've got a little bit more space.
Absolutely. No, I just think, last year I was just going balls to the wall to Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts every time. And it did leave you like, you had to do it. Otherwise you're kind of locked out. But
yeah,
I even think Pitts went 6-8 here. I would have picked him, but I have like 35% of him. So I can only take on so much from a portfolio perspective. But from what I've been hearing after the Arthur Smith news, both him and London, who I picked at 5-6, are moving back up into like the early 4th, maybe late 3rd range, based on perception and everything. So they're moving back up. So that's another option too. I mean, obviously Pitts, he's a very polarizing player, and the situation's been terrible. I guess he had a PCL
Yeah.
sprain on top of the MCL, so that maybe explained it a little bit more. And with the situation, so the light is still on for him for sure. So if you're not like me and a lot of guys I know, and you have so much of them already, he's fine pick there. And
I
then
will
as
keep
we
running
see,
into that burning house to save him. I will.
bro, I mean, I'm never gonna sell him. So like, whatever,
Yeah.
we're along for the ride. Um, A chain, I think in like the fourth round ish is fine. We'll have to have a deeper conversation about him. But then we just get into wide receiver land. Like pretty much for me, like I said, like I prefer to get two quarterbacks and then a tight end. And then if you have room for like, yeah, like either one of these young or high scoring receivers or like a Brees Hall or a top scoring running back through the 4 rounds. And then 5 through like 10 range, I'm just pounding wide receiver if I get that. Like I think get a mix of some of these older guys that are falling down. I had a tweet about Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams, but those guys are prime buys right now. Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, and then you can mix in whatever some younger guys like a Pickens, a Josh Downs, a Jaden Reed, a Christian Watson, like some of like the younger upside guys.
Yep.
Um, get a good mix, like we said. You don't want to go all in with all old guys or all young guys.
Well, and the
Give
rookie
yourself,
class is going to be stupid deep at receiver. It looks like
especially with everyone being pushed down by the three quarterbacks and maybe more. I mean, who knows with McCarthy and Bo Nix and everything. But yeah,
yeah. I mean,
get a good
based
mix.
on this, like I just want to sell every fifth and sixth for a 10th and 11th and a first and try that and just
Oh,
not have to worry about that at all.
that's prime strategy right there. And then Deontay and Marquise Brown, I'm never going to quit them, and they're in the 10th round. So if you can, same thing, whatever. If those guys are there in the 9th or 10th, or even like a McLaurin, Murray Cooper, like 10th round, that's just way too cheap for what they give you. Then after that, with this team structure that we're talking about, pretty much there's so many, like this time of year, especially because everyone's once again scared of age. Like there's so many good running back options. Like I think zero RB is very, very live.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Ty J Spears, obviously we don't know if he's going to be the lead back next year, but he could be 9th round. Najee honestly is like, he ended the season not bad. He's under contract. He's 25. He went in the 11th round. Aaron Jones, James Conner, David Montgomery, Derrick Henry, even like whatever. There you see some of these guys, even Mixon is in the 13th round. Like you can just stack whatever 4 or 5 guys from like round 11, 10 to like 14, 15. And you're gonna get similar.
And the running backs are going to keep getting cheaper. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I've been talking.
They're going to keep getting cheaper because you're going to see, like Jacobs and Barkley, they're going to continue to drop in value after this season as well. So, I mean, like you said, snagging cheap running backs in those early teen range, and then just continuing to buy the dusty vets that used to be elite. That's such a viable strategy with how you're laying this out. Like you almost, unless you want like a Gibbs, a Brees Hall, you don't have to draft running back until like round 10 now. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like we talk about in best ball. It's like either draft them early or like either draft a few early or draft a bunch late. Like you don't. I'm not saying you like. I took a Kenneth Walker here just for value wise. Like I think he's a 23-year-old running back, so he'll probably be pretty solid. And like if I want to sell him later on, then whatever. I think it's fine. I also have 0 shares, so it's like okay, whatever. It's if I take on 1 share, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, like these middle range running backs, I think they're Jacob Sanderson was talking about how like as a whole, like a few of them are going to come out of the off season and probably go up in value. Like we don't know which one, but like as a portfolio of guys, a Rashad White, a Pacheco, a James Cook, like I'm trying to think who else. even like a even like a Tyjae Spears, like a few of them are going to make it through and go up. Some of them are going to go down. So if you just want to play it from like, I'll draft like one of them in each draft, and like some of them are going to go to shit and some of them are going to go up, and it'll balance out. But yeah, zero RB, very live as it always is this time of year, but it feels even comfier and cozier than it did last year. So
for sure.
All right. Well, I think that's it for tonight. I do have a little bit of a hard out, so I think I'm gonna shut us down. But let's just go over let's just show this tier quick. But yeah, it was good talking to you about the quarterbacks. I feel like we're mostly in lockstep, but I definitely think there's a little bit of like back and forth. So that's fun to see how it's evolving, and we'll see over the offseason how it goes as well. And then for the startup, yeah, I think I like your ideas about trading those 5th round picks for firsts, and we'll see how it evolves. Like I said, it's still a little bit the Wild West. We have directions about where it's going to go, but we're still very early. So
yeah, wrap this one up so you can so we can get another one started, man. It'll be good. Get that draft done.
All right. Any final thoughts for the night?
No, I appreciate you having me on. Always good to mix it up and talk through stuff. Love talking through strategy. I'm excited to see how the rookie QBs kind of pan out and where they land. That's always a weakness of mine right now, is where to put them in kind of these pre-draft rankings. But this is like the most exciting time of the season for Dynasty is here, man. So let's get after it.
Amen, brother. Yes, we will be back next Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I have a show on Friday with D-Plot from the Bulletproof Discord. We will be going over, he's the wide receiver guy. So we'll be going over wide receivers, and we'll be going over, quote, like cornerstone guys we want on our teams, and who to build around. So have a great night. L Coach, thanks again, and we will see you next week. Thanks, bro.